fired up. You're a fired up kind of dude.
I am kind of fired up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not the fired up chief. That's Juan Lewis.
That's Juan Lewis.
Juan Lewis is an amazing guy.
He already trademarked that, right?
Well, he's actually loaned it out to me.
Oh.
By permission. So,
nice.
Yeah, hero, that's what's up.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I'm definitely fired up. I'm really excited. I'm full of pride, enthusiasm, and passion. And it's really all about the airmen and our families.
Absolutely. And I feel the family and the love here. Like, seeing all these faces, a lot of people I follow on the internet who I haven't met in person, seeing them finally in person. Like, the setting here is so... I can't even explain it. It's like everyone is just an airman here, and everyone wants to get to know each other. So there's not a lot of, like, since we're all here just for that purpose, there's a lot of really good connections. There's a lot of hearing things from the top, visions that, you know, I could hear directly from these leaders' mouths. Like, I mean, I was just hanging out with our Space Force command chief, and that just blew my mind to spend time with him. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, I wish every single airman could come here and experience this.
Well, honestly, they can. All they got to do is sign up next year, and they can start the transition and start getting that strategic vision, right? So,
yeah.
So you sat with Chief Toberman?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, he's the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force, an amazing dude. He's been rocking it out for a couple of years. He's the number one since we started the Space Force and we started moving. So, for me, doing AFSA has always been a really big, important thing. The Air Force Sergeant Association, you know, was founded by 4 guys, 4
Really?
NCOs. Yep.
Oh, wow.
And,
4 NCOs. Dang.
4 NCOs that were promised some things with our benefits, and they felt like the government wasn't doing their part to help with that, right? So they stood up a national military association, which is what the Air Force Sergeant Association is, by Congress and DODI. And then they started taking it on, and their goal was to prevent the erosion of benefits. So we're not looking as a national military association to get more from. In fact, these dudes were threatened with court-martial initially.
Oh my gosh.
For unionizing, right?
Right.
But they did it the legal way. They went through the IRS. They filed the National Military Association. They were actually a War Veterans Association at the time, and it's progressed since. So it's been an amazing opportunity. And every year we have the Professional Airmen's Conference, which is what we used to call this, which is now the Summit, right? So
the Summit.
Yeah, the Summit. But because you can only get so high, right? So if you could think of the premier organization, this is it. For all enlisted members, this is the organization that is taking it to Capitol Hill. Right. To prevent the erosion of benefits. But for me, it's the fraternalism portion that's even more, which is what you alluded to, right? So you're talking about getting to meet and greet all these heroes, right? And so I use, and then I know Chief Juan Lewis, fired up hero, right? It's an acronym. Help everyone reach opportunities. This is the place, right? So you're going to see your command chiefs. You're going to see the former Chief Master Sergeants of the Air Force. You're going to see MTLs, MTIs, career advisors. You're going to see recruiters, Air Force gaming. Man, they're like the Air Force gaming. They're going Air Force versus Space Force over there, right? Yeah. And what's pretty amazing is this isn't just for airmen or guardians. Anybody in the Department of Defense that is in uniform can join this phenomenal organization. And then the other thing that they're really focused on is taking care of our family members. So we have learned and we have talked about it as we start going forward, and we're taking on the mission every day. Well, if our home life and our family is secured, we can focus more on the mission. And that's also what they're doing. And with some of the partnerships that they have with like some of the universities that are here representing, you know, they're giving out, I think tomorrow, Columbia Southern University is going to be giving out college scholarships to spouses.
I heard that. Yes, I love that. You know, because me and you both know, like, our spouses got us to this point. They're our best advocate, our best coach, our best friend. So, you know, to show them some love is like, that was music to my ears. Like, I loved that.
Yeah, and for me, you know, so everybody always says, hey, well, you got the GI Bill, right? And we do, right? If you bought into the GI Bill, and that was the Montgomery GI Bill, and then you got the post 9/11 GI Bill, and you can give those benefits away. And while you're serving active duty, you can still get 100% tuition assistance as long as there's funding for that, obviously. But we don't have anything set up for our dependents that are taking it on the home front when we're out executing the mission, right? So, yeah, I agree 100%. Why can we not better our family members? And especially when you start looking at the cost average salary versus military versus our civilian counterparts, I think the most recent number is there's a 22% deficit between pay for the military federal employee versus the civilian counterpart. So in other words, we all can make more money on the outside.
Right.
But there's something on the outside that I'm not going to receive while I'm in the service, which is actually part of my story, right? So I got out of the Air Force after my first tour. I did 4 years as a supply troop, attached to C-130s, going, deploying, doing some cool stuff in the late 90s. And then I got out because I thought it was going to be greener on the other side. And I realized one day I had my uniforms all hung up in my apartment complex there in my closet, and I walked in and I used to just rub my hand across my BDUs, right? Because I'm that old.
I had BDUs.
Yeah, so I had my shiny boots were still down there, and I didn't have shiny boots and work boots. My shiny boots were my work boots, and they were tore
That's
up.
dedication.
It was, but it was something I was passionate about, and then it clicked one day. Man, I really miss serving with the men and women that are willing to do something bigger than themselves.
You were missing that purpose.
I was missing the why, my personal why, right?
Yes.
So men and women that are willing to serve, which is less than 1% of all Americans are currently serving in today's military.
Right.
And only 7% has ever served. And I just miss that camaraderie where I have brothers and sisters that are willing to go out and do mission with me. For, ultimately they could give their life for me, and I'm willing to do the same for them. You're not going to get that in corporate America unless you're in law enforcement or fire or something of that nature.
Right.
So the camaraderie is why I really missed it. So I decided to come back in. And so I was out about 11 months total.
Wow. Is that still on? Okay, it is. We almost lost connection. Wow. I've heard, I'll tell you one thing I've noticed about a lot of the people who talk in my life, the people who talk about the military the most are the ones who got out. And that is a reason that I'm still here today. Because I was on the fence myself. Luckily, I was able to retrain, and I was able to leverage my skills. And I was aerospace ground equipment.
Age troop?
I was an age troop, but I'm not a mechanical thinker, right? I'm much better like speaking to people and computer programs, and that's my strengths. So luckily, the cross-training, the retraining program allowed me that opportunity to serve in my strengths, which then gave me joy, right? Because now I'm being successful. So love that program. But I was about to get out at 6 years. I really was. And I remember looking at, thinking about my friends that already got out. And I was like, I got to check on them. I'm going to look them up. And I looked them up, and they didn't look too great. Some of them, yes, of course. Some of them, no. But one thing they all had in common was that they all had all their pictures of them in their uniforms still up. It was something they still continue to post and talk about. They missed it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if these are all people that I was friends with, my peers, and they all miss it, I took that as a sign, that something ain't right with that. I'm gonna try to stay here and ride this out and see. And that's when I was all in. Once I retrained and I knew the difference because I saw what happened to my peers, I was all in. And the rest, they say, is history. Now I'm at 18 years.
So at your 6-year point, what I just heard you say is at your 6-year point, you committed to the Air Force.
That's correct.
So we all enlist or join for one reason or another, right? Be it education, be it to get out of your small town, learn a trade, whatever your reason is. It was a little different after September 11th, 2001, because everybody joined for patriotism, right? But we all joined for one reason or another, but at some point, the internal mechanism should flip, and we're no longer yeah, we're enlisting, but at some point we got to commit to the Air Force, right? So that's when you join the Air Force, right? And the Air Force family. So, yep, we enlisted at some point in our life in the very beginning, and then at some point in our career, there was a time or purpose where that mechanism switched inside you, and you're now serving for the greater good, right? We know we can make more money. It's not about the money. I can go make more money today, and it's not about the cash. It's about serving with men and women like you that are motivated, that are educated, and are willing to serve a bigger purpose. And I don't think you can get that almost at any job on the outside. So
Right. No, that's beautiful. And yeah, I don't see many people have the opportunity to rejoin and then become a chief. My God. Do you think you leaving and coming back led to you getting chief?
yes, I think it did. And I was a very I would say it was a successful airman, right? So I had some great supervisors that were pushing me, holding me accountable, which is one of my things, right? Accountability is important. But when I was an airman, it was all about me, even though they were pushing me. But I really left the Air Force because I had two bad supervisors in the end. And it was the first one and the last one, and I was just like, it's going to be greener on the other side. And then when I went out working for an hourly paycheck, it wasn't so green, right? So then when I came back into the Air Force, I have the privilege to come back into the Air Force because they didn't have to take me back.
Your perspective changed.
My perspective changed, right? So I decided at that moment I would give the Air Force 110% of everything I had every day, regardless. And I say 110% because everybody always says, oh, well, there's nothing more than 100%. Yeah, we could always dig a little deeper and pull out those extras.
Yeah, anyone who follows David Goggins knows it goes beyond your 100%.
Who's going to carry the boat?
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
David Goggins, man.
That dude, next level.
He's amazing.
He is.
And the fact that he was an airman and a sailor, even better, right? So,
yeah.
Hey, but, you know, the Navy, they got David Goggins, but so do we, but they don't have Chuck Norris.
They don't have Chuck. That's right. They don't have Chuck Norris.
Or Morgan Freeman. I'm just saying.
How do you know all these celebrities that served?
Because I like to know our heritage, right? And then if you're ever down at the Maxwell, if you ever get down to Maxwell, go to the Enlisted Heritage Museum. Great opportunity. They have a wall of heroes, of celebrities that have served in the Air Force.
No, I love like movies. I love movies. I love film. I always visit movie locations. Like wherever I go, I look it up. Like what was filmed here, and I want to go see the spot. Right. So, you know, for airmen for a wall to be dedicated to that, I would love that. 100%. I'm at Eglin. I'm about to make that drive.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it just to go through there and see all the beautiful displays they have. There's a wall or a hall. I call it a hall. I don't know what the museum calls it, but all of our Chief Master Sergeants of the Air Force are in there.
Right.
And all their stuff, the old uniforms, different career fields are highlighted.
Right.
And then that wall of celebrities that have walked the line before us. Mm-hmm. Like, we come from a really great legacy. And I think when I came back in, it was me saying, hey, no matter what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it my best every single day.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not saying I'm perfect, right? So I definitely fall short at times. We all do, right? So I call it falling forward. You gotta fail forward, right?
John C. Maxwell.
Yep, fell forward and then hit it, and then move out. So I didn't know John C. Maxwell has done that. I've never done his books, but I've read a little bit here and there, but I've never gone through one of his classes or anything. So that's something I've always said. I kind of have one of David Goggins saying, you know, he says that crushing souls or taking souls.
Taking souls.
Mine was always crushing souls, right?
Wow.
So when I heard that in his book, I did read. So when I came back in, I was like 100% every day, all the time. It's like any NFL sport. You know, you got an athlete that's going to be executing. You got to give it your best every day, or you're not going to be on the team.
Right.
And then eventually we all retire and move on. So,
right.
Do you want to be successful or do you want to be significant?
Oh, I think I argue to say if you're significant, the success will come. If you're operating in your strengths and what you love, and you found your purpose, my God, every person I've talked to this whole experience, every person has touched on purpose being so important. So important. And like once you know the difference, you can never go back.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So what defines success, right? So most people define it as winning or having a successful career. And you could use any sport athlete that was like awesome in college and they're just striving so hard to get to the NFL or whatever professional sport that they're in. They get on practice field, boom, break their leg, they're done, right? They wrapped all themselves in. For them at that point in their life, they were successful. They made it. But they weren't significant in anything.
Right.
And so then they wrapped themselves into, what do I do now?
Right.
Now that I can never play again, what do I do?
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about being significant and moving forward as a team and then leaving your mark where you left it on the field.
Can I ask, what does leaving your mark look like for you?
Sure. So for me personally, we always say, hey, in the military, train up, train down, right? Learn the job above you, learn the job below you, and do that. And really my goal is honestly to make better airmen, right? Better leaders. That way the legacy will continue regardless. My point as a chief is, for me, it wasn't ever to be the chief, because I am a chief. I am not the chief. The chief does not define me. So this isn't my stripe. This is your stripe, and I work for you.
That's beautiful.
And so if I can teach somebody to be better and take care of the team, and we talk about this in our evaluation system and the promotions and all that competition with one another. Well, I've never believed in it. I do believe in competition is healthy because it brings out the best in everybody, right?
Right.
But my goal on my team is to compete together as a team. And then everybody in our team is going to rise up to the occasion. And we'll let our leaders sort out who's the best of the best. So bring everybody up forward. And we're all significant at that point.
Right.
And we're just moving together.
Right.
And so some competition is healthy, some isn't. If you're backstabbing your buddy, obviously not. But
Right.
if you're rising to the occasion and bringing your peers and your coworkers and your younglings or your airmen with you, then it's a better world.
So I had a moment in time where I was trying to make master, and I thought I deserved it, and I started getting really, it started changing my morals a little bit, and I wasn't the best teammate for a time, right? And then after I missed it again, I thought, I can't live my life like this, like bitter and keeping a distance from people and trying to outdo people. I'm doing it for the wrong reasons now. I'm doing it for selfish reasons. And so I stopped all that. Once I stopped all that and I started helping my peers and lifting them up, that's when all the success started coming to me, finally.
So what I just heard is you left your success and you became significant.
Hell yeah, that is what you heard.
You know what I'm saying?
You just Jedi mind tricked me. But yeah, that's right.
You left your success because you were being successful.
Right.
You were being successful in every opportunity you were taking, but you weren't being significant, right? So then when you started leveraging your peers and bringing them along the ride, then the significance portion started happening, right? So
yeah, I was on a BTZ panel, and I was giving advice. It was like a live stream thing. It was really cool. I've never done that before, and I've never made BTZ, but I still gave my 2 cents on it. And one of my points was, help your peers, help your competition, help them. What can you do for them? And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you talking about, man? Like, I'm not going to help them. Like, I'm trying to outdo them. And I said, if you're trying to outdo them and not help them, I don't want you to have BTZ. And that's what everyone's thinking. I'm just telling you how it is. Don't be that guy. You know what I mean? Once you start helping people, opportunities, they're going to help you back one day.
Right.
You're going to get the opportunity. Now they're helping you. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
And so I just wish
that
that
networking piece.
Right. I just wish that clicked for me earlier on, instead of seeing people as a threat to my success, which I did for a time. I wish it clicked for me earlier on, So that's why when I went to the BTZ panel, I made sure to really hit on that point.
Yeah, that's actually when I clicked on that is when I got out of the Air Force the first time, right? So, or because I'm going to get out again eventually, but when I got out, I was like, dang. But when I came back in, I was like, oh, I owe it. I owe the Air Force me,
Right.
and me as a team mate, not a. There's no army of one. We can operate as one because we're all in lockstep, but you can't be out there being a one-man show. And if you do it, you can't sustain it, and you'll never be able to keep up with that pace.
Right. Yes.
Which goes into the resiliency piece of life, right? So,
right. What's your thoughts on resiliency? Big topic.
It's always been a big topic, right? We just put a new name to it.
Right.
You know, we called it wingmanship for a long time. We call it fellowship. Resiliency is huge.
It's human.
Every human needs to be
Right.
resilient.
That's why you keep hearing it come back time and time again,
Right.
because it's a human thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So being resilient is just being the opportunity to bounce back from adversity, right? And how you handle that. And sometimes things don't go our way, and we have to be okay with that. You were okay with that when you finally accepted, like, hey, this isn't the way for me, when you didn't make master, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as you became resilient to that adversity, that's your adverse reaction to that environment, right? So you not making that strike lit a different fire, and then you became resilient and you started bouncing back, right? And I think that's super important that we connect with one another today. I think sometimes we use it almost as a crutch and leverage on other people, and part of that is the point of being resilient, but it's not the only thing, because we got to have some personal resiliency as well, right? That's where you got to take care of yourself. You got to know when your battery's drained out. You got to take a knee when you need a knee to rest, and then you got to have a plan to move forward. So like we were talking earlier, and I asked you what's next, right?
Right, you did.
So you got to have a goal. Always have a goal, and it can be massive. So maybe you need to be a podcaster. Like, so we call you an Air Force influencer. I don't know if you knew that. So I've been following you for a little while as well.
I appreciate the support,
Yeah.
especially from an outstanding individual such as yourself. Thank you.
No, thank you. Because you getting out there and talking about those things is helping people be resilient. And on the other side, you're also being resilient by receiving that feedback. Sometimes we learn from others, How many of us as kids did our parents say, don't touch the stove?
Every parent has said that.
Every parent said, don't touch that, it's hot.
Mm.
But what did every single kid that we know do?
We had to find out how hot it actually was.
Yeah, we all touched the stove, right? Like, it wasn't good enough just to hear it.
Right.
We had to experience it.
Right. Yes.
And so when we go through adverse reactions, we got to experience that to grow. We all know not to touch the stove anymore, even though sometimes we get a little dumb in the kitchen as adults and grab a hot pan, right? We've all done that too.
Right.
But yeah, so that's adversity at its finest, right?
Absolutely.
So we can learn from one another. Sometimes it just takes us watching somebody else grab that stove. But,
right, yes.
But every kid still's got to do it.
Yes, absolutely. No, I think that's absolutely beautiful. Is there as we're coming to a close here, is there any last topics that you want to put out to the world that you're passionate about, that you think someone hearing our discussion would help them out?
So really, it's all about being a teammate, right?
Okay.
And so I've got my own leadership style. I did learn through some personality tests. I don't do assumptions well. It's weird, right? So when I was younger, I always was accused of having no tact.
Oh, okay.
Which clicked later, right? Because I don't do assumptions well. I don't give assumptions either. So if you need something from me, just ask me and I'll do it, or I'll help you.
And then there's other personalities where they don't ask. They don't feel, they might have the personality where they don't ask, right? And
or
so
they beat around the bush.
Right. And so they're trying to give you hints, and you're not picking up on them hints.
Right.
Right.
So as I move forward with that, so when I every new team I go to, I explain that, right? So one of my personal philosophies, which is really hard to do, is how often do we when we make a mistake, do we say, that wasn't my intention?
More times I can count.
Right. But how great would it be if we tried to view somebody else's action with their intentions?
I mean, that would solve a lot of conflict.
Right. Because instead we use perception, right? So when we wanted to view ourselves, we say intent. And then when we view others, we say perception, because we're perceiving what they think. So how great would it be if we just gave them the grace and tried to observe their intentions, knowing that nobody wakes up every day and says, I want to do a horrible job today.
Right.
So that's kind of one of the things I try to teach my teammates. Hey, let's all give each other the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I already said it, less than 1% serve in today's military, right?
Right.
So anybody that's willing to don our nation's cloth and go to battle with one another has already earned my trust. Until it's been proven to be taken away,
right.
Trust is given.
Right.
You don't have to earn it if you're willing to wear this uniform with us.
That's beautiful.
And so I try to extend the intent piece out and be gracious with that intent, and view their actions with intent instead of the perception that always is lined up front.
Absolutely. Chief, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Like, you're an awesome person. And I'll get to that part in a minute. One thing I forgot to ask you was to introduce yourself. And I can just cut that and put it at the beginning, but because it's all being recorded on this. But let us know, who you are, where you were raised, how long you've been in the Air Force, what your career field is, etc.
Okay.
Who are you?
So I go by Court Sartain. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas. I grew up here in the Lone Star State, but I am the first Texan in my family. My dad was in the military when I was born. He retired out of the reserves. Both my parents were civil service employees. And I followed down. So I look at this as a family business. Joining the military was to follow down the footsteps of my family. So I got uncles that are all served, and it was just something that I could give. But really why I serve is so my friends and family don't have to. So for me, it was a passion that lit within. So I could do those sort of things. So I became I'm a civil engineering guy by trade, an electrician. So I deal with American airmen engineers every day, which is amazing. I always have a joke, the pilots and the maintainers, they talk about the nonners versus the non-nonners. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Well, I used to be age.
So they can keep having that argument while
Right.
CE's building the ground beneath their feet.
Ooh, got him.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a fact, right?
It is. I'm not going to argue that.
No, but so I work with airmen engineers,
Okay.
and I've deployed with them, I've bled with them, and I love them.
That's
But
awesome.
really, the big thing for me is all airmen are my airmen.
Right.
I don't care what AFSC they are. They're willing to come out and get some advice or some mentorship, and I can help just one. At the end of the day, it's that significant.
Wow. I absolutely love your perspective, and your dedication is inspiring. And I think, I'm so glad we talked about you separating and then having the opportunity to come back. That perspective changed your entire life. That perspective got you to where you're at now. And it's that perspective that probably impacted so many people's lives. That wisdom that you had, that you were able to pour into them, that not many people ever have, right? Not many people get out, come back, and then get to your point. That's almost never happens, right? You got to be a very rare breed. And so I just think that what you brought to the table and your dedication is so inspiring, and I know that you have impacted so many airmen's lives. So I just want to tell you thank you,
Well,
Chief.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for being you. I always love when someone like you is at the top of the food chain in the rank structure, because you're setting that tone for the whole organization. And it warms my heart to hear your philosophy, and I'm so glad that we have you on our team. You're kick-ass. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for taking the time and doing what you do, and I hope to see you next year in Dallas.
Oh, you think I'll be back? You think they'll invite me back?
Absolutely. Oh, check that. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Hit him with the dad joke. I want to hear, and let's get that round of applause. You didn't know I had that, did you?
No.
Yeah, I had that. All right, Chief. Well, it was an absolute pleasure. The live stream cut out, unfortunately, right here. The internet, not the greatest, but that's okay. You will be uploaded on all the music streaming apps, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora. It'll all be on there to capture your awesome, incredible, inspiring story. So again, thank you for your time.
Brother.
Appreciate you.
Keep being there.
Hell yeah.